Salutations, respected viewers. This is Stuart from Ireland. Here I am in front of Nelson's column. No, sadly, not in Dublin. This is the London Nelson's column. So who was Admiral Lord Horatio Nelson? Well, he's best known as being the victor of the Battle of Trafalgar in October 1805. It was the day that he died. So the United Kingdom's most illustrious admiral. He was born in Norfolk, the son of a vicar, and the school he attended there was also the one that Stephen Fry went to 2 centuries later. So the Church of England clergy had a fairly high social status, but not necessarily well paid, depending on the parish. Some of them very handsomely remunerated, others not. His family wasn't particularly well off. So he joined the Navy in his early adolescence. Now, in the army, people bought commissions, they're often the landed gentry, and they could get promoted on the basis of connections and wealth and so on. Not like that in the Royal Navy. The very affluent people tended not to be officers. The officers, army upper class, in the Navy usually middle class, like he was, because it was a tough job and it was dangerous even in peacetime. There were pirates, there were storms, ships could capsize, people got scurvy on ships and all sorts. If you fell ill on an oceanic voyage, you might not get to hospital for months, be too late. So people often signed down for the Navy very young because promotion was often on the basis of the number of years served before the mast. So if you were in theory a naval officer age of 6 or something, by the time you were age 16 and really joined, you'd already in principle been serving for 10 years. I know it was an absurd fiction, but that's the way it worked. But he rose quickly, and then the Napoleonic Wars broke out in 1792. So he fought many battles there. The Battle of the Nile in 1799, when he finished off the French fleet in Abu Qir Bay. That's the Mediterranean coast of Egypt. And there's a Battle of Cape St. Vincent. Nelson, he was of Scandinavian ancestry. His surname would have been Nielsen some generations beforehand, and he held the Nordic races in very high esteem. Despite that, he launched the unprovoked attack on Copenhagen. So Denmark was in a neutral country. Denmark was quite formidable. Denmark at the time ruled Norway, Iceland, Greenland, had some islands in the Caribbean, then now the US Virgin Islands, an outpost on the coast of Africa, and small colonies in India. So the Royal Danish Navy was a serious affair. But the British were concerned that Denmark might be annexed by France, and the sizable Danish fleet would fall into Gallic hands. Therefore, the Royal Navy was anchored off of Copenhagen and ordering the Danes to surrender their fleet. They refused to do so, so it was sent to the bottom. Now, some of this is a completely unacceptable and unprovoked attack. I suppose it foreshadowed, where is it, Tel Mersel Kabir in 1940, when the Royal Navy attacked the French fleet and sent it to David Jones's locker under similar circumstances. So I don't think you can really zoom in and see carefully these battle scenes depicted here. But yeah, he's best known for defeating the French and Spanish fleet at Trafalgar. Trafalgar, like most sea battles, it takes its name from the nearest point of land. There's Cape Trafalgar, a Portuguese peninsula. Well, I shan't go into all the particulars, but the French supposedly leading the Royal Navy in a wild goose chase to the Antilles and back, and then them finally being cornered at Cape Trafalgar. So Admiral Villeneuve was the French admiral, and obviously he was defeated. It was Nelson's touch. He was no longer going in for broadsides. He was breaking through the line. See these enormous lions here, meant to be a symbol of the United Kingdom. Many countries have them as a symbol, but so about 2/3 of the French fleet was sunk, French and Spanish fleet. They actually outnumbered the Royal Navy a bit, and the Royal Navy didn't lose a single ship. Obviously people were killed, but a French marksman up in the mast, he managed to shoot Nelson, and he was fatally wounded, brought below to be operated on. And Nelson's last words were, "Kiss me, Hardy," asking another naval officer to kiss him. Well, rum sodomy, the lash and all that. Some people think maybe Nelson was saying kismet, as in the Turkish word for fate. I'm not sure. So he died aboard his flagship HMS Victory, and his body was preserved in a barrel of alcohol. I wonder how it tasted. Anyway, a fast ship came to Falmouth, the southeast tow of the United Kingdom, and then a horseman rode from there to London. It took him 37 hours. That was less than 10 miles an hour. He must have slept on the way. You can't ride 37 hours non-stop. Changed horses several times. Got to the Admiralty, which is down this street. Can't see it from this angle. I'll film it another time. And broke the news that the Battle of Trafalgar had been won, but that Nelson was dead. So he's brought back. He had a state funeral. One of only 3 commoners ever to have state funerals, the other being the Duke of Wellington and Sir Winston Churchill. And he is interred in St. Paul's Cathedral. So he was already lionised by the public long before that. When he landed at Norfolk, sometimes his coach had been pulled by people, not horses, because they adulated him so much. So that one is Copenhagen, his attack on Copenhagen. There was another attack on Copenhagen under similar circumstances the next year. So these lions are much bigger than life size, and people would stand on them, but now they've got signs warning you because you might fall off them. So Nelson carried on a torrid affair with Lady Emma Hamilton, who was not quite a lady. She came from Chester, came down to London, worked as a maid for an aristocratic family, and literally slept away to the top. She then married Lord Hamilton, who's about 3 times her age, who was ambassador to the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies. Sicily and the mainland close to it, we'll call that. So she was in Naples. And Lord Hamilton treated her like a daughter more than a wife, and said, oh, certainly, you can bring your paramour to stay, so long as you're happy. And Lady Emma Hamilton was delivered of a daughter, and she was brazen enough to name the child Horatia, after the man who was blatantly her father. So that was that. You see a film about it starring Vivian Leigh, that Hamilton woman. So people were not so moralistic, it was not the Victorian age yet. So that is Lord Horatio Nelson. His ship is still preserved in Portsmouth. You can walk around it. And when King George V is being shown around, he was told, that, Your Majesty, is the spot where Admiral Lord Nelson fell. And he said, well, I'm not surprised, I almost tripped over it myself, which wasn't supposed to be a witticism on his part. So there, seen from the Battle of Trafalgar, the wounded Nelson, and the words he had flown in flags for the battle, England expects every man will do his duty. So he had lots of Irish sailors who spoke only Irish, had to have an interpreter for them. You'll see a man on my extreme right in the frieze, and he's obviously black, of the African race. The metal's all black, so you can't distinguish by skin tone. So that's the Nelson's column. It's 183 feet high. The statue of Nelson himself at the top is 18 feet high. It's not as tall as it was supposed to be, and the man who designed it, I believe it was John Nash, was incensed. There was also Nelson's column up in Dublin, raised again by public subscription by Irish people who were appreciative of him saving our country. Anyway, that was blown up by the IRA on Easter Monday, 1966, the Golden Jubilee of the Easter Rising. Obviously could easily have killed people walking by. Alright, so that's that. Another such scene, the Battle of Cape St. Vincent in 1797. So Trafalgar Square obviously is named in honour of his splendid victory, and there are other admirals depicted elsewhere. That is Nelson's column. Unfortunately, you can't get up inside.